What is the difference between the lower self and the higher self? And why do we even have them in the first place? And how to work with them? Let's find out. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sylvia Salow and I help light workers and starseeds to remember who they are. And today I want to talk about how to work with the lower self and the higher self, because this is truly the foundation of all the alchemical process and the foundation of all the healing and remembering. So let's begin. First, the lower self. The lower self is tied to your personality. It's tied to your individuation, and it's connected to your emotions, your emotional self. It's also connected to your life experiences. So all of this creates your lower self. The term lower self doesn't mean that it's worse, because we actually wanted to develop the lower self. The lower self corresponds, of course, to the third dimension, but it also corresponds to the 4D, 5D, and even 6D, where it starts to tap into the Christ center. The higher self, on the other hand, is that stable energy behind everything that you experience. It's not changing. It's the pure consciousness. You can truly think of it as the consciousness, but it goes way beyond consciousness. It's that profound force behind your life experiences that is watching you. It's that inner observer that you can maybe sometimes feel when you meditate or just so. It's that something that's observing your experiences. It's very stable. It's not changing. The lower self is very volatile. It's like an ocean. It can be different every minute, every second. And so why did we develop the lower self? When we start from the top, there is the one source. The source doesn't have any polarity within itself. There is no feminine, masculine energy. It is one source of everything. When we were connected to that one source and we were in that pure state of oneness, when there was nothing else, we slowly started our journey of descension. So we were moving down through different dimensions, all the way until we got here into this third dimension. At the beginning, we developed what we call the higher self. This higher self first didn't have any specific coloring. It was still very much coming from that one source, that pure consciousness. And as it was descending into lower and lower dimensions, it started to develop its individuation. This is what we call the Christ self, Christ consciousness, Christ center. Christ consciousness is that point where you start to develop the sense of I. So you are no longer in that oneness, which is beautiful, but your sense of I is very, very limited. Very, very, if it even exists. But when you are developing that Christ center, which is the lower aspect of your higher self and the highest aspect of the lower self, you start to develop your personality and you start to realize, oh, this is me. These are my experiences. And you continue descending into lower dimensions, which creates the lower self. The lower self needs to be, to some extent, kind of disconnected from the higher self. At least there's that illusion of that disconnection, of that separation. The reason for it is that if it wasn't the case, you wouldn't be on this journey. You wouldn't be having those experiences. You wouldn't fully develop the sense of I. This is me. The I is not something negative. It's not something we should avoid. This is why this whole descension happened in the first place, for us to develop the sense of I. But also when we develop that sense of I fully and completely, we come to that full individuation of consciousness. We again start our journey of ascension, and we again start connecting, merging the lower self and the higher self. And the way to do it is through the Christ center. The Christ center is something that neutralizes all those extremes that we experience and perceive, all the extreme energies, emotions within us. When you are connected to your Christ center, your energy becomes very stable. You still feel, because sometimes people ask me, does it mean like you don't have emotions? I think there is a difference between emotions and feelings. Emotions is just some random energy moving through your astral body. Feelings are connected to states of consciousness, to states of being. They come from a much higher dimension and they are stable. You can have deep feeling of love no matter what kind of situation you experience in your life. It's there like the undercurrent, it's all the time there, it's very stable, it's not going anywhere. But on the surface you can experience different volatile emotions. So it's like the ripples in the river, or like would be a better example. But there is that profound undercurrent beneath all of those emotions, and it's not going anywhere. And those feelings are truly our bridge to those higher states of consciousness. It's the bridge to the higher self. On the other hand, those emotions are very much connected to the lower self. And as I said, it's just some kind of energy passing through you. It's not that reality. When people say you should listen to your feelings, many times this gets confused because you should always listen to your feelings as that state of consciousness. This is where you receive that intuitive guidance. But if you follow those random emotions, it usually doesn't work out so well. I don't know if you tried, but I don't think that this is what we should be following, because it's just like random energies, disturbances in your astral body. You want to always follow that which is stable. You always want to have your gaze directed at your higher self. And you always want to go beyond those, 3D, 4D, 5D. And you want to start connecting to 6D and higher. Because the 6D is where that Christ consciousness is first, like for us, rooted and available. And we can truly tap into it. So there is a huge difference. Since I got into this, which I wasn't planning, I'll also add one more thing. Many times we say that the feminine energy is very emotional. Yes, but when you tap into that queen consciousness, when you tap into that queen energy, you develop those deep feelings. Or more, I should say, they are there, but you are able to become aware of them. So being in your feminine energy doesn't mean that you are emotional. It doesn't mean that your emotions are all over the place. That's that princess consciousness. When you tap into the queen consciousness, you actually become stable as well, but you are able to be highly creative. So this is that change. This is the dance that happens within the feminine energy. And actually, if you are interested in this, how to step into that queen consciousness and what it looks like, I have an online program on my website. It's called Feminine Power. So if you are interested, you can head over to my website and read more about it. And if it resonates, you can sign up. But let's go back to our original topic. When we work with the lower self, we need to do inner child healing work. The inner child healing work is nothing else than balancing the emotional body. We are working with emotions and we help them to become stable so that we can reach into those deeper states of consciousness that are related to the higher self. So if you've never done inner child healing, I really invite you to try to do it. I think everyone should do it, but I don't agree that we have to do it forever. I don't believe that we have to go for decades into some kind of, therapy where we are solving the same things that happened in our childhood. Because you should always see evolution, you should always see growth, you should always see that it's helping what you are doing. This is kind of the trap of the lower self, because you can go so much deep into those emotion, inner child healing work and get so caught up in working with your beliefs that you don't see what else is possible there, which I will get into in a while. But regardless, the inner child work is very good when it comes to working with the lower self. It's also slowly transmuting and changing those beliefs and programs that you have within the subconscious mind. So you also do some kind of mindset work at this level. It's really important. This is your foundation, and this should open that pathway to your Christ center. Because all of a sudden you don't have all those disturbing emotions, beliefs, and all kinds of things going on. You can start to feel centered. You can start to feel aligned. And this is what we are developing, that's Christ self. It's very balanced, it's very stable, and it's neutral, but as I said, it has those deep feelings. I believe that only when we are in the Christ center, we truly understand what is love, and we truly understand what compassion is. I don't think we can understand it when we are fully in the emotions. And then we have the higher self. You work differently with the higher self. You are basically just embodying everything that you have ever learned. You are applying all those spiritual lessons. You no longer have to meditate. You don't have to meditate like I don't know how many hours a day. Your daily life becomes your meditation. Your daily life becomes your spiritual practice. You no longer have to separate spiritual time and other time. It becomes one, and it becomes one through the embodiment. Let's say that you are on the spiritual journey and you would love your family to truly understand you, or your friends. You would want to explain to them what you are doing and why it's so profound and changing for you. But if you go purely into the words and you are telling them things, they will build up resistance because subconsciously they feel that you haven't embodied what you say. They feel there's that disconnection between the lower self and the higher self. On the other hand, when you embody everything that you have learned, let's say you want to explain to them that meditation is good. Instead of doing that, you become the peace. You become the embodiment of the peace. So you no longer have to use the words. Although sometimes you will be guided to use very specific sentences. But this time is not to explain something to other people or to prove something. It's because you are present and you listen and you are a channel and conduit to what needs to be spoken. So the embodiment is truly something that you will be called to do more and more. So you will no longer have to read spiritual books, let's say. You will no longer have to meditate, although it's good. There's nothing wrong with it. But it will be more about who you are becoming. What do you demonstrate through your own embodiment to other people? You will be able to heal and help more people through the embodiment than being disconnected from your embodiment and using empty words. So the embodiment is truly the journey to connecting to the higher self. With that is also related quantum leaps, quantum shifting, when you can collapse your timelines, when you can shift your reality, your consciousness very quickly, and it can tap you into different level of embodiment. So when you work with the higher self, you basically grow through expansion. When you work with the lower self, you grow through healing. And then there's of course that integration that happens in that Christ center. So do you feel like it's time for embodiment, for taking quantum leaps in your life? Do you feel like it's time to expand? And of course, many times these two can happen simultaneously. Because when you embody things, when you shift your reality through the quantum jumps, let's say, you will quickly notice what's no longer aligned with who you are becoming. And when you see what's no longer aligned, when you're at that level, you can just decide to let it go like that. It's that decision, it's that spiritual will that you eventually reach to, which is just very much connected to the higher levels of the higher self. Or you notice that this is no longer aligned, and so you do some form of inner work. You can use the inner child work. You can work on your belief systems. You can do some kind of energy exercises. So those two can go hand in hand together as well. So ask yourself, what are the things that you've been studying, contemplating, and you haven't embodied yet? What are the things that you know that if you truly become it and acted on it, that it would open up you to new levels of consciousness? Where is the space and time for more embodiment? Also, I just remembered I have a masterclass called Become Your Highest Self, and it teaches you specific steps how to work with quantum energy and how to do quantum shifting. So if you go to my website to masterclasses and find Become Your Highest Self, you will find it, and you can join it, you can watch it at any time, you have an instant access. But now, let me know in the comments below, what you are in the process of embodying now. Claim it. Don't be hiding it, because when you're embodying, you are no longer hiding things. You are no longer pretending in front of your family that you are not spiritual, let's say. You are like, this is who I am. I own it. I demonstrate it through my action. And this is something that truly helps that healing. But you don't have to persuade anyone of anything, because they see you and it changes them. So let me know in the comments below what you are embodying. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel. And I see you next time.